This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel. Everybody, and welcome along to this edition of the panel on lirmedia.tv. Usually email info@lirmedia.tv. We're recording this program on Easter Sunday, so hence we might be talking about chocolate and bunnies and rabbit stew and all of that. So you'll be wondering, that's the context for that. That's our excuse at the top of the program. Well, welcome Alison O'Reilly.
Hi guys, happy Easter.
And welcome Dirk Klein.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
And welcome Mary Honan.
Hi everyone.
Now, unfortunately, life is not like a box of chocolates. I know somebody said that in the films, but we have to look at incidents and events that happen in real time. And unfortunately, at the top of the program today, the subject matter is about 3 horrific murders very close to each other, very recently, and 2 men in Sligo and 1 man here in Limerick.
And a woman now up the country in Tyrone.
I happened to come across the scene of the man that was killed in Limerick, although I didn't know he was dead at the time. And 22 minutes after it happening, I happened to see the ambulance going away from the scene, but I knew it was very serious because there was a lot of Gardaí and plainclothes Gardaí and cars and all of that. But we weren't allowed to walk through, if people know Limerick, the promenade in front of the station. I had to go way up the side and mind my own business, but there was a horrific amount of blood.
I found that very difficult, Pat.
You know, how much pints of blood does the human body hold? Is it 7 or 8 pints?
I thought it was about 14, is it?
Is it 14?
Oh, I could be wrong now. I'm not.
It's about 5 liters, I think.
I know.
5 or 6.
That's about 8 pints of blood, 9 pints of blood, yeah. But anyway, God, I shouldn't have done that. But
10 pints, I've just checked it.
10 pints of blood.
The average adult has around 10 pints of blood, roughly 8% of your body weight. Making a blood donation uses about 1 pint, after which your body has an amazing capacity to replace all the cells and fluids that have been lost.
Wow.
Says Dr. Mary Honan.
Dr. Mary Honan, that's why she's doctor. You can take my temperature there in a minute, but really, the murders in Sligo then are horrific if we're to believe some of the things. I'm not going to repeat some of the reporting on it because I don't know anybody who was on the scene, and so I suppose if we can't get something verified, there's no point in mentioning. But suffice to say, there's very little outrage about the 2 murders in Sligo, and I'm wondering why. Alison, were you reading about them?
Well, there was a massive protest now outside the Dáil on Friday, and there was a huge gathering outside the courts as well for the charging of this man. There was, they lined the streets. I think probably you are comparing it with Aisling Murphy's death and the revulsion, and the shock and horror. I think, the death of Aisling Murphy was horrendous, as I said, but I was a little bit, maybe even frightened at the response. It was a lot, for me, it just felt like a lot of hysteria. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely horrendous what happened to the girl, but there was so many responses to it that it was a bit overwhelming. So I think, there is a strong response, certainly in Dublin, certainly along the lines of Sligo, and you're probably thinking of the international headlines Aisling Murphy made.
Yeah, I think the BBC, before I go to you, Dr. The BBC picked up the story of the 2 horrific slaughter in Sligo of 2 gentlemen by a Muslim, a non-Irish person there. What do you think of that?
Well, see, to me, that makes a difference. That Irish people kill Irish people as well. I'm pretty sure that the poor creature killed today or was yesterday in Limerick. That's not necessarily done by anyone from any religion. So, but I wonder, will there be the same outrage about his murder as about the others? That's what I kind of always. It kind of puzzles me. Why do some people pick a certain crime and have an outrage, and then another crime which is identical and say, well, not so much. So that's
Yeah.
what I don't know. I'm a bit cynical when it comes to that. But yeah, but you make a good point in one way about this done by being a guy who confesses to the faith of Islam. Because Mary McAleese was saying about the 2 murders in Sligo, or this is because of the churches in Ireland, they are still very homophobic. But she forgets to mention that this wasn't done by anyone signing up to any church. So I think she should be careful what she says as well, like when it comes to that kind of thing. So.
Mary McAleese.
What do you think? Because Mary McAleese's pronouncements, I heard she was on the Late Late Show. I don't watch the Late Late Show, so I wouldn't have known. But knowing her, she's a bit of an ignoramus. Is she, Mary?
Well, that's a very leading question, Pat. But all I will say about Mary McAleese is that I used to absolutely hugely admire her and considered her and Mary Robinson as probably our 2 greatest presidents or in the country's history. But Mary McAleese has for a long time now had a huge problem with the Catholic Church, and it's disingenuous, the way she comes out and blames the Catholic Church for absolutely everything, even things that it has absolutely nothing to do with. It had nothing to do with this murder. The person who committed this and beheaded those 2 men didn't do it in the name of Christianity or in the name of Catholicism. He didn't even do it in the name of Islam, because many people who follow the Muslim faith would never do something like that and would be appalled. He did it out of pure evil
and hate.
Pardon?
And hate,
pure evil and hate and brainwashing. But you can't tar no more than you can tar every Catholic with the actions of the few within the church who have brought shame. You can't do you can't do that either to anyone of any other religious belief.
But Mary, I have to say as well, this is Mary McAleese, whose husband was involved in an institutional report, which was a whitewash. So, it's almost like on one hand,
Yeah.
that's for them, and this is for us. It's kind of 2020 vision. Looking back is 2020 vision. But her own husband did a whitewash of a report into the Catholic institution. So
he did.
But the thing about it is going to those murders and the murder of that woman in Tyrone today. A man has been found for the murder. Dirk brought up a great point there before we even started. We were talking. Before they'll even be sentenced, there'll be at least a year taken off their sentence because for good behavior or time spent, and all this.
That's if he is sentenced, Mary. Remember, his solicitor was really, really urging the judge for full psychiatric assessment. So we're already looking at guilty but insane.
And
what about Alison? Sorry for going to consider as you're on that. What about the poor woman that was left out of an institution and killed her mother in Dublin?
That's right. The other day during the week.
I mean, who's responsible for that?
Yeah.
From all the accounts I read, that poor woman should not have been out what we call in the community.
Yeah.
But she killed her mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's going to take responsibility for that?
Our system is not working. And I mean, you look at the incident with the Limerick man who was a former junior soccer player for Ireland and football player. And when you look at him and you look at where he was killed, every day of the week, there's phone calls to An Garda Síochána to come because of trouble there. There was never it's as Dirk quite rightly said, it's the first place you see the minute you get off as a tourist at the railway station, and it should be beautiful. It should be laid out beautifully. Instead, what they did was they prevented wheelchair. People used to be able to park right in front of the station if they were wheelchair. Everyone used to. There were parking spaces there, but the front spaces right at near the door were for wheelchair access. Now they're right at the back. They've got to go up a ramp, down a ramp, up another ramp to get into the station, whereas before they had only to go up a ramp. And instead they've put the seating there, and no disrespect to anybody, but there's people sitting on the seats there and lying on the seats with bags of chips, and there's a takeaway across the road, and there are beer cans and smoking pot and whatever. And that's the first thing people will see the minute they get off the station and arrive in Limerick, and it's a very bad sign.
You know, Alison,
there's always people around there with beer cans.
Since you're in the media business, Alison, picture yourself standing in front of Colbert Station looking at it and the promenade. Over to the left of the station, as you're looking at it head on, there's a halfway house run by the Sister Stan's organisation, full of people who are misfortunate to have drug addict or alcohol addict. Straight across the road,
will do nothing.
Straight across the road from that building is an off license. There's a consistent parade of people over there for cheap beer, cheap wine on a regular basis. I see it myself on a regular basis. They come back into the promenade, which Mary described very well. They sit there drinking wine and beer all day long, every day. Why? Because they can. That's my point. And there's no doubt trouble did come and will come and continue to come as long as you're there. That halfway house should not be there.
Yeah.
It's not even the halfway house, Pat. I'm sorry, but it's not even the halfway house. Most of the people that will be at that halfway house will be absolutely placid and do nothing. And we don't know who did this, committed this crime, other than they believe there were women and men involved in it, and they attacked him. And he was working in the shop. He used to work in the shop that he was killed outside. But the fact is that having an off license right across the road compounds the situation. Why would you have a hostel for people who have alcohol problems and drug problems, and across the road have an off license selling cheap beer and expect there to be, that's like trying to do the same thing over and over again and hoping to get a different answer. And then having seating right across the road where they can go and lie down on and sit. Now, as I say, and smoke, as I say, nobody knows who did this yet, and can't blame people in the halfway house.
There could be a simple solution to that kind of thing, because first of all, it's a station. A station will attract crowds of people because of the nature of what it is. All you have to do is have a small little kiosk there with a guard or representative, like a cop shop, so to speak.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of tourist office there as well. So to kind of make it a bit more attractive in one way, for people to have some information, then have a bit of more community sense there as well. If something goes wrong, people say, well, we've been watched by the guards or whatever. So it doesn't have to be costly. It takes, but they failed to do that when they were redesigning the station. I thought that's going to be.
Don't know what's going on in their heads, and I don't know who these people are who are planning it out, and what level of decision making is put into it, and how many people have to say yes before they make these daft decisions. Because to stop people from being able to park in the front, bulldozing the whole thing, now a wheelchair has to go around the back, come out the front, as I say, up, down, up to get, instead of up a ramp. And it's just completely flattened with concrete seating, where, you'd want to be insane to actually sit out in this weather anyway. in the rain.
Yeah.
Why they would have thought that put a load of seats there and you'll just and
Well,
people sitting out
except-
enjoying the sunshine.
Yeah, except you were
It makes
high,
no
but
sense.
we want to wish we want to say on behalf of all of us here on the panel, the huge sympathy to all the families of those people. We don't want to come across as belittling their sympathy or anything, but the horrific nature of any murder is sad and a huge burden for people to carry. And when the details come out, as they must come out, you know, of the thing, it's a double.
Can I ask, is this the first case of a beheading in this country's history?
No, there was a girl beheaded in Drogheda back in the 80s.
Yeah, but Alison, do you remember the Scissor Sisters?
Yeah, that's right. Barry,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
I can't think of his name. Faris Wally Noor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who?
Well,
The Somalian that was killed by the Scissor Sisters.
Yeah,
it was
but
the stepfather, wasn't
he was decapitated, wasn't he? He was cut up into pieces.
Yeah, and his head cut off.
Yeah.
And he said,
Yeah.
every part,
Well,
yeah.
Mutilated. Yeah.
Let's not forget the poor third victim in Sligo as well, though. He survived.
Yeah,
but
they're seriously injured. Yeah.
he's seriously injured as well. He'll be requiring operations for the rest of his life, I reckon. So I mean,
You have to wonder what is going on with people to have that level of madness.
Barbarity.
Yeah.
I don't wonder. I'm black and white in this. I don't wonder anymore. I'm just sad that we don't have the death penalty for certain crimes. That's all I'm sad about.
I'm definitely.
That's all I'm sad about.
that's not a solution either, though.
No, it's not, Dirk. Because I keep saying to Pat Barry, the person who takes life, no matter who it is a murderer.
It's €80,000 plus almost.
I don't care.
To keep one person in prison for a year and to put him in for 30 years, you can make up to be cheaper to
Send
kill
him
them.
back to the country that if he is not
Well,
from Ireland, if he is, if he's from, just say for instance he's from.
He will be deported if he's convicted. He will be deported.
Needs to be deported because the Irish system shouldn't have to pay for him. It's bad enough when we have our own murderers in the country.
But you see,
I do, Pat. I have to say, I do understand the it's very emotionally charged when stuff like that happens, and I do hear people, saying bring back the death penalty. You can understand. No, I'm not saying I agree with it, Mary, but I do allow people the space to vent that.
Oh yeah, no, I get that.
Because you can understand. Well, I mean, I can never understand somebody being murdered in my family, but that level of absolute hate for somebody for destroying your life, it's. A death penalty is, a legal murder in certain countries. It's better than you going out and shooting them. So I do give people the space to vent that. Pat's not going to go out and kill somebody, but it's just a strong belief he has. I do think if people want to say it because they're just angry.
I mean, I totally agree with that as well. But it's not that the solution. However, if it would happen to one of my family, I probably would have a different point of view.
And that's the other thing, Dirk. You just don't know. You could become so. You could be like I was best friends with Josephine Pender. I don't know how she was never angry. I just look at her sometimes, and I used to think she is I used to think she was a living angel for the forgiveness and the compassion. So you don't know how you would be directly affected. You could be like Josephine Pender and suddenly become very religious and just hope and pray and believe in good things. But I do accept that that rage could make you want someone to die by the death penalty.
I reckon if it would happen to some of my family, I probably would be for death penalty. I'll be the executioner myself as well. So I mean,
you just don't know how you feel.
It did happen. A member of my family, an adopted member of my cousin's adopted child, who was studying to be a doctor. GP, a medical doctor, and he was in a pub one night watching England playing in the World Cup. He was living in England, and this drunk, he changed channels, and they asked, would you change back, please? We were watching the match, and the guy went outside the door with them, insisted he go outside the door, and he stabbed him, and he was murdered. He died, and the guy got no sentence because they said he was under the influence.
But it's not an Irish thing, man. My cousin, he was murdered as well. I mean, he was poisoned. He was found after Christmas. He was found in his own back garden, poisoned by his own mother.
God, what?
And
Lord,
the murderer is still out. There's still no conviction. This happened in 2005.
Oh
They
my
know
God.
who did it. They know who did it, but they can't prove it. And that's
Oh my God.
that's
Oh my God. And you know, I think that there, right, what you just said there, they know who did it and can't prove it. How
I know.
many families
Actually,
are in
and,
that situation?
You might know this guy, Peter Otterfries. He was actually helping me out there to see if he
Oh,
could
yeah, and
get
he
some
died.
information. And he was murdered himself then shortly. Oh, not shortly, last year. So I mean, it's.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. That's
Well,
horrible.
this was in the Netherlands.
The panel is the program on LiR Media.tv. Tell all your friends about us. And press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel. It's free of charge. We sincerely hope that justice will be served on all of those crimes, and swiftly. And I won't say any more than that. Anyway, all the opinions expressed on this program are our own individual opinions. Just to state that.
And I say something about that, Pat. I often hear you say that, okay? But you have to keep in mind, this is because I only came across this recently as a anti-defamation law. It's happened to what's her face, Mary Harney. She was on News Talk. I forget the name of the author now. So,
It's the publisher who is the responsible person.
Yeah, exactly. It was said on News Talk that Mary Harney, whatever the person said, it was incorrect. But
it was Nell McCafferty.
Nell McCafferty. Yeah, so I don't want to repeat what she said, but it was on. And
You can imagine.
The news reporter said no, he distanced himself from it and the station, but yet they allowed it to be said, and it was still they were still sued for 450,000 euros. So you can't just say it's.
Well, that's okay. Pat can pay it.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know.
Well, I love your support. I'm telling you.
Thanks, Dirk.
Fantastic. Anyway, I know.
I'm only saying 450,000 euros. That would be half of my year's salary. Then
We won't defame you. Don't worry, Pat. We won't defame you.
Dirk, it's only an hour's payment for you.
450,000
Anyway,
I'll take that.
Obviously, I know we seem to be all doing, but there's only what I can describe myself personally. And I have no inside knowledge of the Kinahan gang before people phone up or send in emails. I don't know any of them. I don't know any of their associates. I've never met them.
Listen to him.
I saw one of them once in Dublin. I saw them, but like many people, he didn't salute me. But anyway, the Kinahan gang now are operating in Dublin, as you know, Alison and everybody, for over 30 years. Now, Dublin, as you know, is a small city. How can they be operating that long? And yes, then they had a big hullabaloo during the week, $5 million or whatever reward, Americans, that's their usual thing, reward. They're not very successful at catching people either, as we know ourselves. What is this carry on? Everybody, nearly any reporters, most reporters that I know, and I know a good few of them, everybody knows who they are. Everybody knows how they operate. I mean, really, what is the state afraid of? It seems to me they're afraid to move against the Kinahans. It seems to me they do.
The problem with that, Pat, is, you know, like Christy Kinahan Christy Kinahan Sr. was running this empire and his two sons involved, and they were all friends with the Hutches. And what's happened is the shooting dead of Gary Hutch in Spain in 2015 was the start of this war, because he was killed by the Kinahans, and that split that family and their friends and the whole business. And the Kinahans were operating out of Spain. They moved their empire then all across the world, Mexico, Brazil, the US, England, everywhere. and they've stayed away. And so after the shooting in the Regency, like there's a number of arrests, as you know, and people before the courts, special criminal courts, the Monk being one of them. But the guards have never been able to arrest the Kinahans because they don't have anything on them, but they do want to arrest them in relation to that whole incident. And they are now wanted people here. They come into Ireland, they'll be arrested. They have slowly but surely had to work with their international counterparts to get Interpol involved to try and crack down on this. But yeah, you're right, they did. They blew up and out and went all across the world. And I think the biggest downfall was Daniel Kinahan, who now is seen as the head man in that operation because Christy Kinahan Sr. is retired and they're out in Dubai. They got into MTK boxing, they got into the boxing world, they may be getting into the rugby world, and they started to try and paint themselves as legitimate businessmen. And Daniel Kinahan had a film made of his own version of what happened in the Regency, and that was a big, big turning point because it embarrassed everybody. And it tried to water down what really happened. And, you know, people say Drew Harris, he's not this, he's not that. He's a highly intelligent man, head of intelligence, was in the PSNI. He has obviously put a huge amount of work into working with his international counterparts to make that happen. And whether the Americans are no good and their failure in arrests and all that, it is a massive publicity disaster because what they're trying to do is get to the Emirates and to get these guys to cut them out of the sporting world as well. And, you know, it was a massive PR exercise, but it was a terrible, terrible kick in the face for them. And they'll be the authors of their own downfall. It's falling apart for them now.
But before I go to Dirk and Mary, Alison, maybe I'm taking too much of a simplistic view. I know, of course, I understand you have to have evidence to arrest somebody or something. You have to have something. To say to me or to say to anybody for the last 30 years that the Garda Síochána of this state has nothing on the Kinahans is beggars belief, number one.
But they were abroad for a lot of it, Pat.
No, but not before they ever went abroad. With the sophistication of surveillance, with all the other things, the elements that they have at their disposal, I do not understand how they haven't done anything to them for over 25 years.
Well, they've raided their houses and they've seized a lot of stuff, but you're right, yeah, but you see, they don't do the work, Pat. They don't touch anything. They've all these young fellas doing it for them, you know, for 200 here and 5 grand there, and you know, they never have any money, these people. It's more ego than anything, you know, 300 quid to kill somebody. So they're not close to anything. They make the orders.
That's true. Dirk, what about you? I mean, I don't mean what about you. I don't mean.
I told you I'm not a criminal, Pat. Just told you that mafia past has nothing to do with me anymore. No, but the thing is, who's going to replace them if they're gone? And that's a big problem as well. But of course, people would have known the Kinahans in Dublin. But you see, who's going to talk out to them? Who's going to say, well, no, I know what you did? No one's going to testify if you know that you might get shot yourself. Like so that's a problem. And I think it's a good thing that the Americans got involved, regardless if they are successful or not. $5 million for a reward, that's nothing to be sneezed at.
Yeah.
That will get someone within the organization as well saying, hang on, that I can do it with $5 to $15 million. I wouldn't mind that in my pocket. So there's nothing to be sneezed at, really. But you see, this comes down again, though, with the whole judicial system in Ireland. It's a bit of an indictment, really, when they have to get other police forces involved, even with the poor murder of Sophie the French lady. Yeah, as the French had to come in to kind of investigate there as well. I mean, this should be done. The problem is that the Gardaí don't really have any powers, and that's a big problem in Ireland.
Yeah, but Dirk, with this, sorry.
No, I know this from talking to guards, even with the smaller things. You should adhere to a zero tolerance policy. That means if you see a little courier doing something wrong, you get them. Regardless of what the parents say, that's it. There should be some kind of punishment, and that's not an equation in Ireland. They should start from the bottom. like then you get those little fuckers who get 300 quid to kill someone. You start there, and then you build it up. That's my opinion.
Well, you know, you look at the Sophie Toscan de Plantier's murder, and there were so many shameful mistakes made by the Gardaí, particularly O'Dwyer, who was the chief Garda on it. I mean, they even went so far as to lose a double farm gate. They couldn't. They weren't able to find it. That I find incredibly strange, when there was supposed to be fingerprints on the gate, but the gate went missing, and nobody seems to question the fact that the Gardaí lost the gate, the prime piece of equipment with somebody's fingerprints on it.
Maybe the guards have been slaughtered over that case.
Yeah.
They've been slaughtered. It's the subject of a Netflix series, and
that's right. I watched the Netflix.
I know what you mean. As time goes on, we forget about it. We forget about it as time goes on, and you would like more done.
And you talk about
believe me, they've been so damaged over that.
And that's how they lost. That's how they lose power. That's what I mean. They don't.
Yeah.
They lost power because the credibility is gone as well. Even with all those breathalyzing tests. I mean, 1 million or something a month or whatever. Like, I mean, that means technically everyone in Ireland should have been breathalyzed at least 5 times in the last year or so. But it's a credibility it's an issue, and that's how they lose power, and that's
that's true.
But when you talk about the Kenahans and that, I can't see any situation where somebody is going to come forward, even for 6 million. And I mean, what do you do? Put them in witness protection for the rest of their lives? It's more than a life is worth to actually betray any one of them. And as Alison says, they don't leave fingerprints themselves, because they don't do the work. They have young people and vulnerable people doing the work for them, and they can remain in the background,
but
and plausible deniability.
The thing here is now, Mary, because they're not only going after the Kenahans, they're going after all the business that they might be involved with as well. So they have no issue. They can't launder the money anymore. So the money
that might work. You see,
the money they earn is going to be useless to them. Yeah, and that's what they.
Well, of course, as we know, we're not going to labour the point anyway. Look, we wish the Gardaí and all the other agencies are working really. And as Alison was saying, I think I would agree with you, broadly speaking, that the net is pretty tight. It's a lot tighter than it ever was around the Kenahan gang. And as you said, their restriction of movement and their opportunities to visit other countries are being denied them. So really, as that happens, maybe there'll be a positive outcome.
But the publicity, Pat, the publicity is desperate for them. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I think they're even stamping down on their finances in Saudi Arabia.
Which I think this is what it's about as well. The guards are trying to get them to do something.
Yeah.
They've embarrassed everybody. They've just embarrassed the guards here for too long. That this is...
Yeah. Well,
any move to shut, they've just caused too much misery in this country.
Absolutely. Talking to friends of mine who live in Dublin, it's just shocking. I mean, it's easy for us to talk, I suppose, in one way. The panel is a program on LiR Media.tv. This is Easter Sunday night. We recorded this. So Easter eggs, Easter bunny. I know what you did with your Easter bunny, Dirk. You already told me you had rabbit stew. Was it covered in chocolate? Was it?
You see, the whole thing with the Easter Bunny, Pettis, he works together with Santa Claus. Like, you know, I'm still waiting for all the money Santa Claus owes me from all the years of buying presents. So this year I thought, well, if he doesn't pay me, the Easter Bunny will get it. And he got it today. I mean, that's it, like the end. No more Easter Bunny. Sorry, kids.
Now, Alison, did you get many Easter eggs? The lads buy you Easter eggs, did they?
No, I'll tell you, Pat, I'm trying to be healthy at the moment. And the problem is it's all or nothing with me. There's just one bite is never enough. So it's best to just not buy them. So I got the kids their Easter eggs and I said, no, don't share. I don't want anything to do with them because they'll have no Easter eggs. I mean, I remember one Halloween, I did all the sweets for the kids coming to the door. There wasn't one sweet by the time the children came. I ate them all. So that's the problem. There's no stop button. I just bought loads and loads of sweets for Halloween. Not one sweet when the children came to the door.
Well, Alison, that's being a responsible parent. You're doing the quality control on the sweets. I mean, that's what I do as well. Like, make sure, because you don't know, like, they could get sick. Like, I don't want that to happen on Halloween or Easter. So,
but they were not good for anyone, only me. So I'm glad I did it. I did it for the greater good.
I know Mary doesn't eat chocolate, so that's a grand.
I don't eat sweets. I don't like anything sugary. I do remember when my dad lived in England and he used to come home once a year. He used to come laden. He'd bring this enormous, now it really was enormous Easter egg, but it was white, because Mum said, well, if you're bringing an Easter egg, bring white chocolate. He brought the white chocolate and the box. I can still remember the box. It was enormous. I'd say it was about 2 feet from the ground. It was a big, enormous thing. And, the box was beautiful. And I got to keep the box. I can still remember her as if it was yesterday, breaking it all up and putting it into separate little bags and giving it around to all the children on the road.
Wow. That would have been a big deal now. Big deal for the kids.
Yeah.
All the white chocolate went around the road to all the kids. I got nothing. I got the box to keep.
Why didn't you get any?
No, she didn't like it. She wouldn't let you eat sweet things at all. They might damage your teeth.
Why buy it?
Oh, you have no idea. I told you, I mean, white she'd let you have because it wouldn't dirty you.
When I was growing up, I know, Alison, did you grow up in the country or the city?
In Drogheda, in the town.
Yeah, I grew up in the country. So when I was growing up, Easter was a huge thing as regarding going to the church, going to Good Friday. And all. It was a massive thing altogether.
More important than Christmas.
Is that gone now?
Well, I'm sure my parents went to Mass today. I'm sure they did.
Everyone goes to Mass on Easter Sunday.
Our Lord rose from the dead today, didn't he?
Yeah, he rose from the dead.
Like the phoenix from the
passing by the window earlier.
You're talking now to Dirk. Well, Dirk, you believe in God as well.
Actually, I did go to Mass today, actually, but online. So I did. So don't rule me out altogether. I'm not a pagan. It's funny though.
I'm talking about like we had a Spy Tuesday, Ash Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday. There was a name for every day of the week when I was growing up, and every one of them had a significance.
It's Shrove Tuesday.
Shrove Tuesday, sorry. They had a significance spiritually as well as for religiously in the church. But I think, is it, I don't know, I don't think I didn't hear much about it. I didn't see visibly much about it. We used to have huge processions going to the church, huge events going on a Good Friday for 3 o'clock in the day. I think that was the time we went. The whole parish
Stations of the Cross.
Yeah,
Stations
that's right.
The Cross.
I never heard of chocolate eggs until I got here, because before we had some chocolate
eggs.
No, we did it would be boiled eggs and you paint them over in the Netherlands.
That's
what we did. Like I remember one story one year, many moons ago. It was the first Christmas scandal in our family, or not, sorry, Easter scandal in our family. My oldest sister, or I'm the youngest one, my sister, she went to her aunt, and she saw her aunt painting the eggs or putting, and she said, well, doesn't the Easter Bunny do that? I said, no, it doesn't exist. I do that. So she came home then, I think she was 8, 10 or something, someone wonder, oh, the Easter Bunny doesn't exist. So my mother gave up. Don't you ever say that again when I'm around, okay?
Ruined.
So that was the first Easter scandal.
And
That's
the
a big
second was,
scandal. That's a scandal.
and that's when
Klein household.
We got
Well,
all like new clothes and everything for Easter. Not that we had any
Yes.
money or anything, but there was a big deal. My mother be saving all year to get your Christmas clothes and Easter clothes.
And your Easter
Yeah.
bonnet.
And you'd get one egg. I mean, I'm looking at people today, look, 8, 9, 15 eggs. Many eggs did you get? Like, you got one egg, and that, you know, you've made that last the week. it's just so funny. Like,
you treasured it.
Easter Sunday is the end of the whole Lent thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
God, I'm losing my memory. Well, I'll give you a little funny story before we finished. Throughout Lent, obviously, I was quite religious and I would save my sweets. So I went to loads of birthday parties and I'd be the only one at the party not eating the sweets, and I'd be putting them into the bag, and they would go into the Hoover press, as we called it, where my mother kept the Hoover. And I hung them on the back of the door for weeks, and with 40 days and 40 nights, right? And then there was the big unveiling on Easter Sunday. Opened the Hoover press, all the sweets were gone.
Yeah.
Awful. My sister Jean robbed every one of them. And this is my mom, I swear to God, and my mom said, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set a trap. And fairness to my mother, like, she must have had a bit of a nose in her, like a journalist. Anyway, she threw a few extra, and it was the end of the world. I was only about 8. Devastated. Yeah. All my big sweets were gone. So my mom set a trap. And the two of us waited in the living room. And my mum said, you stop that fine. We'll find out who's responsible for this. And me being the angel. And she put a few sweets into the bag and closed them. And my mum turned out all the lights. And my sister was the last one in. So we waited and waited. I think Brian was coming from football and Jean was coming in off the street. So we waited and waited. And we sat there. And I remember holding my breath. And next thing we heard the front door opening and in. And next thing, the Hoover press opened, and it kind of rattled like this, and then we heard a bit of, and my mom swung the door open and said, "Caught you!" And she said, "You let your sister sleep." There was war, but she was nabbed, and to this day I always say, yeah, all my sweets for Lent. But she was made now give me money, and she was in serious trouble.
Well, you talk about that, Alison, and giving money. I can remember when I was 5, and I can, I have vivid memories, and it was I'd say my second day in school, home from England, down at school, and because I wasn't allowed sweets or anything, my cousin, who was in the same class as me, had a box, her school case, and it was full of biscuits and sweets, and there was a child in our class who was from the convent. She was what we called a convent girl. She was in the Good Shepherd convent. And I only saw all kindness towards the children, but she had no biscuits. And I took some of my cousin Mary's biscuits to give them to her. And of course, I told my mother when I went home that I was after stealing Mary Waters' biscuits to give to the convent girl. Sure, I thought I was going to be praised. My mother ended up having to buy a big packet of biscuits, and for me to stand at the top of the class and humiliate myself by announcing to everyone, I stole Mary Waters' biscuits and I'm sorry, but I wasn't to announce who I gave the biscuits to. And God. I had to flagellate myself basically at the top of the class by announcing to everyone in baby's class, I stole Mary Waters'
that's really
biscuits.
mean.
And I'm very sorry, and I won't do it again. And I had to say, and because I stuck the packet of biscuits, Mary Waters thought all her birthdays came at once.
Funny.
I never did it again.
Funny you should mention that, Mary, because I actually know Mary Waters. She sent me a text last week saying, "Do you know Mary Honan?" I said, "I do." She said, "She stole my biscuit," she said.
He's not Mary Waters anymore.
Sorry. The panel is a program on LiR Media.tv. Tell all your friends about us. And I know
shamed, flagellation.
We're gonna crack on. How's that for
Mea culpa.
No. Over the last week, I think there's been if anyone of you tune into different television channels, particularly on Core TV, there's a defamation case going on between Johnny Depp and his ex-wife. But of course, Johnny Depp lost a defamation case in England against the Sun, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
With the Sun. But in America, defamation laws are looked at differently. And there's a lot more evidence that, from what I've been reading, and I'm not an expert on, that they can bring. And Mary brought my attention to it here. Go on, Mary, you're the expert in this. You've been watching it.
No, I've been watching it religiously because I can't honestly say I've ever watched a movie that Johnny Depp has been in, even though I think he's a magnificently extraordinary actor and character actor. But I have been on the Core TV, but I've also been on all the social media sites, and there's an awful lot of them with videotaped the conversations that were going on between his doctor and when his finger was cut, and the whole conversations that are going on, and between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp on the phone, and he pleading with her to stay calm and Amber, this is not healthy, and and she fighting with him for what seems to be him constantly leaving every time she fights. He wants her to stand there and prove that he loves her by fighting for her, instead of what his sister says, going back to his childhood abuse from his mother. Like his father, when the mother used to abuse him, he is to leave the room. The father used, and Johnny Depp does exactly the same. And Amber Heard doesn't like him doing this and doesn't want him doing this, and throws bottles. And she admits it on the tapes. Yes, I start the fights, and yes, I threw the bottle at you, and yes, I decapitated your finger. But you walking away what upsets me. And none of this was brought out in the defamation trial by one judge in the UK who made the decision. They weren't even allowed to bring the tapes into court. They basically took the word of, say, Amber Heard. They didn't go into the detail that they're going into in this trial. In this trial, and I fully believe that once all these tapes are brought into court, you couldn't but woman or not, you couldn't but look at it and think to yourself, how has this man actually put up with this for so long and stayed so calm and stayed so
Mary, I haven't watched it, right? But I did, and I'm going to watch it now. Send me those links, will you? Because I followed the one in the UK. And they both came out as bad as each other, I have to say. I thought they were very messed up. How is he coming across? I mean, surely he is messed up now.
Well, he is. He clearly has a drink and a substance abuse problem, clearly. But if you listen to the tapes, and she taped him without his knowledge, she's telling him quite clearly that she has taken photographs, that she used makeup to make herself look as if she was beaten up, and she's telling him as clear as day in it, nobody is going to believe you. They'll believe me before they'll believe you. And he's saying, Amber, this is not healthy. You can't keep fighting like this. I can't take fighting. I leave the room because I don't want to get involved in a fight. And it's hours of tapes that she has taped him, and she says in it, I've been keeping records. I've been making phone calls to my family and to my friends, and I'm covering my back. And I mean, even the night after she was supposed to have been beaten up badly by him, she was on the James Corden show. And she was in, even her cosmetic surgeon or her makeup artist said there wasn't a blemish on her skin, let alone a bruise. The following night, the man lives next door.
He was meant to throw the phone at her, wasn't he?
She threw bottle after bottle, and she admitted it on the tapes. She kept throwing bottles at him and cans at him, and one of them got him in the face. And I suppose he picked up a can and threw it back at her, as you would. I mean, but
So he's coming across a bit better in this case.
On the tapes.
What I have seen on it anyway, Depp hasn't given direct evidence himself.
No, none of them have yet.
But from the outline of the case, it's on Court TV, it's channel 179, I think.
Right.
Court TV.
He'll be taking the stand next week, and so will she.
You'll get a synopsis on the hour, every hour of what's going on anyway. You don't have to watch the whole. Dirk, have you seen any of this, or are you interested?
Actually, I'm not really interested, but I haven't watched. To me, this is just two privileged people fighting each other in court.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Alison. I watched the one in the UK, and they both came out as a bunch of idiots, really. But there's a couple of mistakes that Johnny Depp made. Okay, firstly, he left a very classy lady.
Yes.
Stole a taxi. What's her name?
Vanessa
Paradis. Yeah. Secondly, if she's that bad, Amber Heard, why just leave?
Oh, look, Dirk, when you're listening to the tapes, you're saying to yourself, he's codependent.
Can I finish? That's the second mistake. The third mistake he made. He brought that case in the UK of the Sun newspaper. Okay, that's the tabloid. Okay, because he felt there was defamation going on. The Sun. No one takes the Sun newspaper seriously, really. But he decided, I'm going to sue them, whatever. He lost.
Yeah, because they called him a wife beater.
Yeah, but he lost. No, I didn't even know.
I would too if I was called a wife.
No, but listen, no one takes the Sun seriously. Really, no one in the right mind takes it. All he did, he vindicated those people who think that he's a bit of an idiot anyhow. So this would have blown over if he would have left it go.
You have to listen to the tapes. I have some.
I think though, Dirk, as well, he took it in England for a reason. You know, his career and everything was facing a downfall, and he thought he would do better here.
Yeah,
I think it was not really to do with the Sun; it was more to do with being in England.
The reason why his career,
and it went terribly wrong.
Exactly, and
Vanessa Paradis.
The reason why his career didn't go as well, because he picked absolutely rubbish movies. He played the Lone Ranger. He played all the roles he's played lately are all the same, just different makeup, different hairstyle, but they're all the same. He plays Captain Sparrow in every movie he's done, even with the Charlie Chocolate Factory.
That type of
and that's why his is going down there.
Vanessa Paradis has come out and spoken and said that in the 25 years they were together, 24 years they were together, he never raised his voice once. She said he was the most placid, easygoing, gentle, kind person, she said, that she had ever known. The same with, I can't think of her name, she's Mexican.
Winona Ryder, wasn't she?
No, he was with Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder said he never raised his voice once. They had never had a row in all the time. He would never raise his hand to a woman, that he was a total, as she said, a total Southern gentleman. And the same with that actress, she's Mexican, and she's married to a French billionaire.
Salma
Hayek. She said the very same thing. She said absolute total gentleman. Nobody.
They were a terrible combination. It's definitely
has totally dragged him. To me, she's suffering. Somebody that's suffering with
personality
disorder. Because
but he's not helped. No, there was some terrible things said about him too, in terms of being really drunk and abusive with the drink and more. Lying in a heap for days. And I mean, they were very bad together.
She's been on, listening to the doctor and the doctor in court, all of them said that she was the aggressor. The family counsellor that has dealt with both of them said that she was the aggressor in all cases. He tried to leave the room on many occasions, and she
Well, no, we're not going to fight the case in detail. All I'm saying is, if you're bored watching this,
Alison,
you can go over to Court TV, and as you said, Alison, I think it's madness between the two of them to go into court again to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars.
So damaging. It's such a risk, because the burden is on you to prove the defamation.
Even if Johnny Depp wins the case, it will do nothing positively for him. Nothing.
But it will prove, which is all he wants to. He said, for the sake of his children, he said, Amber, I don't want to go into court. Will you please stop this? He said, this is going to do you no good, and it's going to do you no good. And
the point is, Mary, sorry for cutting across you, is they are in court, which is, as you said, Dirk, they are in court, and it's silly carry on.
Damaging, very damaging.
He's only making money for
his children
all the other people. Anyway,
I'll watch the movie. I'll wait for the movie to come out. Anyhow, probably Netflix will have it.
Okay, that'll be good. The panel is a program on LiR Media. Tell all your friends about us. info@lirmedia.tv is our email. We're with Alison, Dirk, and Mary. Before we finish up, it's that time again. I like it. I still get excited about it. Okay, I may not be right in the head. Eurovision is around the corner. Apparently, our friends across the water, Britain, has a cracking song this time. A cracking, I don't know who the fella is now again, I forget his name. I should have written it down because I heard a few things of it. They're very excited about the song this time. I think from an Irish point of view, ever since we sent Dustin to Turkey to Eurovision, it's been all downhill for Ireland since then.
The song for the UK is called Spaceman.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to have a listen. I'll have to have a listen.
But you are always excited about their song and it always comes out as rubbish.
Sam Ryder is the singer. But no, I disagree with you, Dirk. I think England have always had a very good song. Sometimes not great, but sometimes it was just too good for the Eurovision Song Contest. And
hardly ever.
Oh, listen, I mean, when they won if you listen back to Puppet and a String, and you listen to
I'm talking about the recent years.
The recent years. Box Fizz, and you listen to the recent years.
Just making my mind.
When Brotherhood of Man, my all-time favorite. Save All Your Kisses.
Save All Your Kisses for Me.
Fabulous.
And England, last Eurovision winner was phenomenal. I mean, it was really, really good. Katrina and the Waves. She
was excellent. She was excellent.
Love Shines the Light. I mean, it was a fantastic song. And when Engelbert Humperdinck went into it the year, his song was way too good for Eurovision.
No, it was. Sorry, Mary. The song was rubbish. The song was rubbish. He was rubbish. The performance was rubbish. There's not one redeeming factor in that song. Nothing. Not one bit.
Even the year Scott Fitzgerald came to Ireland, the year it was Eurovision. Well, one of the years Eurovision was in Ireland. I was in France with Bunratty Castle, and we were all sitting around inside in a room, and of course they were all shouting for Ireland, and they were hoping, and they were, and I was the only one that was born in the UK, and I was there, and Scott Fitzgerald was beaten by Celine Dion by 1 point at the very end.
That's right.
And he came to Bunratty. They went around to different parts of the country. Each artist was in a different scenic spot, and Scott's was Bunratty Castle. So he was walking around with all the do you think that would actually make the crowd that I was with cheer on England? No. And we all Bunratty Castle entertainers, they were, come on, and they were delighted Celine Dion won. And the song was beautiful.
Was that crowd from the Netherlands Wizard?
No, they're not. They're English. They're not. But funny that you mentioned Celine Dion there. But that was, I think, it was 1988 that she won. The song who came second or third then was actually an Italian song. Gente di Mare from Umberto Tozzi, which is one of my favorite Eurovision songs, actually.
Excuse me, that's some memory, Dirk.
It's sad that actually I remember these things. I'm sorry about that.
I think actually the best song that didn't win Eurovision was El Volo's song in the Eurovision a couple of years ago. 3 years ago, 4 years ago. and it got second. The song got more votes from the public than any other song in Eurovision history, and still managed to lose out when it came to the song.
Well,
and it went on to become a platinum selling song. It was just
well, sad to say, I remember our first Eurovision entry, which was "Walking the Streets in the Rain," which is a fabulous song. If people ever want to give it a play tonight, now, Alison, you can look it up in Spotify. "Walking the Streets in the Rain," Butch Moore, our first song, which was just fantastic.
okay. We're going to do something. Can I? Is there a way actually of sharing a screen on this share screen? Oh no, you have disabled me as to share it. But I was going to treat you to.
You can sing it. So what's your? So Dirk, what's your favorite Eurovision song before we finish up?
It's actually an Irish song. It's from 1994. It was overlooked because of some other event happening there, something with dancing. Something
yeah, it's my favorite.
Something in river. Rock and Roll Kids. I love that.
Yes,
song.
yes.
Rock and Roll Kids.
I remember 62. Something like that. But yeah, that's my.
Mary, what's your favorite one? Is that your favorite?
Rock and Roll Kids.
Yeah.
I think it was the song for all seasons. It was a song that reminded us all of childhood and happier times, and it was just.
And Alison, what have you an Irish favorite?
Wait now.
That's the one.
That is my favorite. That was beautiful song.
There's nothing like it. There will be
wait for the chorus. Join in, everyone.
Rock and roll was all we did. Radio.
I remember.
You were mine. My name is Dirk Klein.
On a time. We never seen rock and roll
anymore.
Beautiful.
I have a slight, although I love that song, I have a slight preference for The Little Lass on the Bank, and that was In Your Eyes. I thought that was a cracking song. In Your Eyes.
Pat,
she won in Mill Street. In Your Eyes.
Oh yes, I know the song. Yeah.
The year she won that, my mother was dying, and Mom died the day before the Eurovision Song Contest. And the funniest thing, one of the last things she said to me was, "She's won." And I said, "Who's won?" And Mommy was going into, she was on Valium and everything like that. And she said, "She's won." And I said, "Who's won, Mommy?" And she said, what's her name? And
Eve
Kavanagh. And I said, "Mom, it's
not for your mummy.
It's not till Saturday night."
Oh, you're for mummy.
The Voice actually was not a bad song either. By in '96 they won.
Who? The Voice?
The Voice.
Oh, I couldn't stand it. I thought it was awful.
I thought it was good.
No, it was a good song. But this was my favorite that never won it. That got second. I don't know if you can actually hear it.
Lordy!
Lordy, that's fantastic.
That's brilliant.
Rock and rock. Hallelujah. Actually, that's my favorite. Sorry, never mind. Rock and Roll Kid.
Yeah, never mind that. Let's find Lordy. Have you got Lordy, Mary?
I'll find Lordy in a second. 1 second now.
Well, my favorite
Shush, Pat.
all time.
Pat.
One.
Bump up the volume, Mary.
It's an iPhone she has. It's rubbish. Okay, we get the point.
Grande amore. Was the
That
name
would
of the
go.
song.
That would get me going straight to the bar for the alcohol.
Oh,
Hey.
Dirk.
That's the one you think should have won, Mary.
Grandamore was magnificent. It's
And I
it's
think
on platinum since.
there's a unanimous agreement that his Rock and Roll Kids is his favourite Irish one. Of course,
Oh, wait, no, I just did a bit of this.
Can't hear it.
Lordy.
Oh, Lordy.
Rock, hallelujah.
I can't hear it, Dirk. We can't hear it. Isn't that awful?
Good song. I'm sorry, that was good. I know the costumes were crazy. But...
Pat should have left me have be able to scream
Anyway,
and I'd have been able to play them.
And
Well,
the
actually-
next time you're on the radio, Alison, you can play, for me anyway, Vicky Leandros, Après Toi.
On FM 104.
I will love you forever.
Oh, what a fabulous song. Lads, it's been a blast. From Dirk, from Alison, from Mary and myself. Until we meet again, lads. Take care and nice singing.
Ciao.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye. This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.